Hi, and welcome to the Gamedev Meetup 95. This time we'll have two presentations. The first one will be from Jāzeps Rutkis. He will tell us about the game development competition we are having right now, BRSD 10. And then I will continue with my presentation about lean methodology in game development. So let's start with Jāzeps, please.
Thank you, Elviss. We do have a small issue that the presentation is in Latvian. I can go
No
over
problem.
the content. So I'll go over the content in English, but the materials and the text itself will be in Latvian.
Okay, cool.
All right. Okay. So then let's get started. So as Elviss already said, I'm here to tell you guys about the BRSD contest, or in Latvian, Beidz runāt sāc darīt, which roughly translates to stop talking about it and actually do something. So what actually is the BRSD contest? It's a game development competition. We're already in the 10th year. This has been going on for some time. The formats have changed a little, but the overall idea is that everybody has a month, in this case from the 3rd of April, so we're already in it, to the 2nd of May to develop and share a game. This can be a project you've already started work on, but that hasn't been announced yet. And you just use this time to sort of release it for the first time and publicize it, or it can be a brand new project. All right, so in this year, in contrast to previous years, we won't be hosting it on the Gamedev LV forums, but instead on the itch.io platform. I'll show you how that looks briefly. So we have a page for the jam. The link should also be available on all of our socials. So you just join the jam and submit the games. I won't go through the entire process right now, but I think we already have a helpful video on that made by Jānis. And then simply work on your game over the course of the month and just make sure to submit the game before the deadline. Also, if there are any questions, make sure to add them either on YouTube or on Discord or here on Zoom. Cool. So that's how you actually join the game jam. Then the next question is why you should join the events. So of course it is super fun to make games, and it's a great opportunity for you to actually stop talking about it and actually do something about your dream game. But to further motivate you, there are also prizes. So the prizes are split into two groups. First, we have the jury award. We will have an international jury evaluating all the projects, and the first place winner from that group will get 500 euros, second place 300, and the third place will receive 200 euros for a prize pool of 1,000 euros. And then there is public voting. I'll get into the details of that a bit later, but essentially that is based on donations received, and those donations are split according to these percentages. So the first place receives 60%, second place 30, and third place receives 10. In addition to this, every game that receives one of these top 3 places will also receive funding for putting it on a storefront. So whether you're submitting it to Steam or Epic or Humble or the Play Store or the App Store, we will provide the funding for you to do so with your project, provided you do it before July the 31st. So if you do that, then the Latvian Game Developer Association will also cover those costs. So then here is a small discussion on how actually the voting takes place. So you must contribute at least €1 to the association using the bank details provided here. So that's just the account for the association. Once the payment goes through, you will be added as a reviewer to itch.io, and you will be able to vote a week after the end of the submission deadline. So in this case, until the 10th of May. There you go. So until the 10th of May, you can vote, and until the 7th of May, you can make your donations to join the public jury. And then you just take your time to evaluate the games and submit your results. And then the best games will be awarded on the 12th as part of the next Game Developer Meetup. there's sun here. Right, so that's everything regarding the voting. And then there is also a special prize from our sponsors, Estoti Games. And for here to participate, the only requirement is that you prepare a mobile game. So this game is eligible for all the previous prizes as well. But in addition to it, there is this special prize. So if you submit a mobile game, it'll be evaluated between all the other mobile games. And what Estoti will provide for you is help in the submission process to the App Store or the Play Store, which can be rather complicated. As this is one of the awarded games, the submission fees will also be covered. Estoti will also help with creating all the publicity materials necessary, so a trailer, screenshots, maybe some cover images, as well as provide a budget of 500 euros for marketing expenses so your game can actually find an audience. And I believe this is honestly a great opportunity for anybody who wants to start out in the game development fields, as having a published game with quite a few downloads actually is a great asset and very, very helpful in this business. The one caveat here is to be eligible for this, the game must be ready for submission before the end of June. So for the submissions for these places, it's until the end of July, as it might take longer to prepare a game for, let's say, Steam. Whereas for the mobile markets, the requirement is to have it ready for submission by the end of June. And yeah, overall, that's pretty much it. Thanks for listening, everybody. And yeah, I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have them.
So what do you suggest to developers? How to approach this contest and maybe how to win it?
Okay, so I've submitted only a few times and I haven't gotten one of the top 3 places, so I might not be the best person to ask. But overall, for me, the spirit of the contest is really just to, well, maybe think about it a little, but mostly actually get to doing and submitting something and really getting something out there. I think that's the key goal here, to prepare something that you've maybe thought about and stop thinking about it and actually take action and submit something before the deadline. So as long as you're actually, working on your game and finishing it before the deadline, I think you can't go wrong.
What do you think were your mistakes why you didn't get any places?
Well, I mean, I'd like to think that just like the competition is very stiff here. Like there's a lot of very clever developers out here. It's a little bit hard to say. I mean, I was very proud of my game. It was a little clicker game with a giant squid that was killing a planet. So I thought it was great. Looking back, maybe I could have expanded on it a little more, add a little more depth to it. But overall, like, it was a great experience and I was still very proud of my game.
Okay. So do we have any other questions? So now this is asking approximately how many teams or participants are there right now?
So right now, I believe we have 17 people who have signed up for the jam, but we are still waiting for submissions. Yanis, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so the registration does not mean that you are actually
it's 18, but yeah.
Oh, it's 18.
Yeah, so you are a participant only when you submit the game, and as in the rules, you can submit it on the last day of the competition. Yeah, so only then you count as a participant. So the answer would be 18 registrations, but no participants yet.
Yeah, that would be a more precise answer. But again, I believe most people submit towards the end as they're still working on their projects.
Yeah, definitely. From experience with Mazai's BRSD, people submitted like in last week. So there might be like, I don't know, 10 games or so. Well, judging from the participants that are like registered.
And previous years as well, it's usually around 10 projects.
Yeah, for those of you watching this YouTube stream, I see a question there. Yes, sure, you can ask questions in the YouTube chat and we will answer them. So there is one coming in. We are waiting. Yeah. So what's up with the new logo? Who designed it?
That would be my wife designed the new logo. Well, firstly it was designed for the small version of this that I organized. Hi, my name's Jans, by the way. Yeah, I'm the co-organizer of BRSD, and this year, we were thinking that like we need an upgrade or maybe a bigger resolution because the old logo was kind of outdated a bit, but we didn't want to like change it completely. We still wanted to keep the old look. So this is the result. The sketchy thing is meant to be like you just stop thinking about it, you just start sketching something, just start doing something. And we adopted the same logo from the smaller version to this BRSD 10, and I think it looks great.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Is there any winner game history? I'm not sure what that means, but yeah, there is actually, if you watched, it's on demand in YouTube available, the BRSD opening video. And there is a list of previous winners and actually their gameplay and some thoughts from Jānis and Jāzeps and
Nauris as well.
And Nauris, Clover. So they all of them play the previous winner games and exchange their thoughts about them. So yeah, feel free to watch them
And
I pasted links to forum and Gamedev.lv news about winners and participants. You can also see the list there. I don't know for how long the forum will be active though, but I think it will be active for a while, yeah?
Yeah, sure. I think maybe it will go in the archive mode, but it will not be deleted. So yeah, it will be there. And so my thoughts about this contest is, so I've been organizing it since the first one, and what I have seen is that not the biggest game wins, but the game that is that hits you in some way, and that is in some way maybe unique, and it's like polished. I would say like one small cool feature, and it's polished, and that what usually wins in this competition, not a huge open world that is not finished and you can actually not do anything there.
Yeah, at least for a contest, I think that's a good point, because you can't really expect people to play it for 10 hours if it's sort of a smaller game that they're just having a look at. So first impressions really matter. Yeah,
and usually if you make a big game, there is nothing to do there because there is no content. Only a huge world, and that's it. And that doesn't guarantee you a win, usually. So do we have any more questions? Yeah, so no more questions then. Thank you. And I will go on with some thoughts and methodology how to actually win this contest. So let me share my screen. So share screen, and I will share. So let me check which one. Okay, let's share this one. Okay, so do you see my screen?
Yep.
So the lean methodology in game development. Do you see the title of the presentation? Okay, I hope you see it, and yeah. So this methodology, when I started reading about it and making sense of it, and it totally changed my world, how I actually see things now. And it not only changed my way of approaching projects and doing things, but also changed my life, because if you follow lean methodology in your personal life, you will be more efficient and generate less waste. And I'm also talking about physical waste, but also you will waste a lot less time than you did before. So pay attention to everything I say and try to think about it and imagine how you can apply this to your personal life and to your development habits. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in chat or here live. So I would like to make this like a discussion. And the first, I will introduce you to the lean methodology, and then we will be able to discuss it. So yeah, lean manufacturing. So the first, it started in 1930, and it was invented by Toyota. It actually wasn't called lean manufacturing, but it was the methodology was invented by Toyota, and it made Toyota the biggest car manufacturer of the world, following this methodology. And so they are applying this methodology in every step of their development of vehicles, starting from actually making the cars themselves, to supply chains, to planning what to build, to testing and everything. And so lean manufacturing follows. So the term lean was coined by John Krafcik in 1988. Before that, it was called Toyota name, which was Japanese, and I don't remember it right now. But the lean startup movement and the lean development was like a remade lean manufacturing methodology and applied to technology. And so lean manufacturing follows 5 key principles. It's precisely specify value by specific product, identify the value stream for each product, make value flow without interruptions, and every aspect of this is really important. Let customers pull value from producer and pursue perfection. So I will tell you about every of these 5 key principles in more detail, but the main things you should take from this is that you have to make decisions based on data. You have to make clients pull things from you and not push things to your clients. I will explain that later. And you have to measure all the time. So lean startup was invented by Eric Ries, and he wrote this cool book, which I really suggest you reading. It's a really awesome book, and it explains in a lot of detail how to apply the lean startup methodology to your development. And I'm going one step further and applying lean startup methodology to game development. And actually, I'm not the first one. A lot of big companies do that. In some level, even our Latvian Estoti is doing that. Maybe not following precisely, but if somebody from Estoti is listening to that, maybe they can also take some ideas from this presentation. So yeah, this is the book that you should right now order, or I don't know how get somehow and read it. It's a life-changing book. So the first thing of the lean development, lean methodology is this triangle. You'll sometimes see it like that: build, measure, learn. And what it means is you have to build something, then measure the outcome, learn from the outcome, and then decide what to do next. Actually, this so also this type of data. So actually, it works. The how you have to plan is the opposite direction. So the first is you have to have idea or hypothesis that, for example, your players will like some feature of your game. Then you go back, you decide what data can prove your hypothesis. For example, you know that you have a hypothesis that like red interface, like red color in your game, would generate more players, like they will spend more time in your game. So this is the data, and then you actually do the experiment. You run A/B test. You show some people, the like 50% of the people you show the red interface, the other 50 you show the old one, and see if the data, which is also called KPIs or key performance indicators, if they actually raise or not. Some examples of KPIs can be click conversion rates. For example, how many people click on the banner and then actually convert to players. Retention, how many people come to your game multiple times. The length of the session. How many people actually spend money in your game if it's freemium. If it's premium, then how many people refund your game, and or if it's expressed as KPIs, then how many people don't refund your game, because you have to have a KPI that's growing. If it grows, it's good. If it doesn't grow, it's bad. So the next thing is MEP. So lean methodology is all about MEP. You have to make MEPs like as soon as possible. When you hear that somebody has a runway for like a year, for example, that's a really, really bad way how to measure your runway. So what is runway? For example, you have like 10,000 euros in your bank account, and you know that you are spending on food and stuff like that. You are spending like 500 euros a month. So that means your runway is 20 months. No, not 20. Yeah, 20 months. That's a really bad way on how to measure your runway. Your runway should be measured in pivots or in MEPs. How many MEPs can you do? If one of your MEPs takes 1 month, that means that you have 20 MEPs in your runway. So how you can increase your runway? You can increase your runway by reducing the time to make an MEP. And what is MEP? MEP is not actually a real game. It's some small feature in your game that's a separate, like a product maybe, that you can measure by your metrics. For example, your user interface, the new user interface is a new MEP for your project. You create it and you measure how it actually improves your game or doesn't improve. Lean manufacturing says, lean startup methodology says, if some MVP does not increase your metrics, throw it out. And why? It's a really extreme approach, but why you should throw it out is because every product that you integrate in your game or in your product or anywhere, it takes your time because you have to support it. If it doesn't increase any of your metrics, you should throw it out and forget about it, because you will spend your precious time to maintain this new feature, and that increases your time to build a new MVP because you have to support this, and that actually decreases your runway. As I said, runway is measured in how many MEPs you can do, not how much time you are left. So you have to make as many MEPs as you can from the money you have in your bank account. And I'm talking here if you have like a fixed amount of money. Of course, if you are working somewhere, then that's a different story. But I'm talking here like if you leave your job, you have some money in your account, then increasing runway is decreasing the time for each MVP. So the first MVP is the most important MVP in your development. The first MVP sets initial metrics for your game. For example, you have a hypothesis that that player will play a strategy game that you made. You have a hypothesis that people are starving for strategy games right now. So the first thing to prepare for the first MVP is create your initial metrics. Decide what is a success. That's the most important thing. What is a success? If 10 people buying your game on Steam is a success, then you should stick to that. And if 3 people buy your game on Steam, that means your MVP is failed. And this early access feature of the Steam is the best that has happened to a lean methodology ever, because you can launch your first MVP, as ugly as it is, on early access and start measuring. So when you have you should have like 5 metrics in your game. The first is of course how many people buy your game. If you can launch a demo game, it's even maybe better, because then you can measure more metrics. You should measure all of those 5 metrics, like how many people spend 10 minutes in your game, how many people open your game more than once, how many people do not refund your game, how many people maybe use some feature in your game that invites other people, or maybe play with other people in your game. So this is a diagram of minimum viable, and this is the problem for like most of the games made in Latvia. We create a viable game, but we don't create a minimum viable game. We create something that people maybe like, but they like only some of the features that are in your game. They probably don't like 80% of your game, but like 20% of your game. And that's enough for them to actually buy your game. What you could do with lean methodology is make them like 80% of your game, and only 20% of them maybe not like, or maybe 100%. So push versus pull. So how we create game, and I'm now talking from my experience and my experience organizing BRSD and lots of other events, is we push features to our players. So we think they will like this feature. We work on it for a year. We generate a lot of trash, a lot of waste, because spending your time on doing wrong features is generating waste. You wasted your time, and that's not less bad than generating actual waste on the planet, because spending time is also generating waste. You are wasting energy, electricity, everything. You're wasting your money. So lean manufacturing and Toyota invented this pull method. So how it works, for example, let me show you one example from their how you repair Toyotas and how you repair other cars. Okay, most of the cars are now following Toyota methodology, but how you did it like years ago. So you went to any, like usually American car service. You said that your bumper is scratched and you have to change it. So what they do, they have like they have a local storage of 1,000 bumpers, identical bumpers. They just change your bumper and that's it. You go away. The problem is that they have locally storing 1,000 bumpers. Then they have regional storage for another 1,000 bumpers. Then they have a national storage, another 1,000 bumpers. And then they have a factory somewhere that is producing 10,000 bumpers a month. And if at some point you realize that this bumper is damaged, or not damaged, but if it's it has some problems with it, like maybe it does not stick on your car precisely or something like that, that's it. From that point, you are putting faulty bumpers on every single car that comes to you. That is the one problem. Another problem, you have to have lots of storage for these thousands of bumpers in every storage. That is a waste, because you have to have electricity in these big storage houses, and that's a lot of waste. So how Toyota is approaching that? You go to the I cannot advertise Toyota here, because I cannot not advertise Toyota, because they're like the most awesome manufacturer in the world. That's the reason why they're #1 manufacturer, and what they have invented here is like so awesome that unfortunately I have to advertise them all the time. But so when you go to Toyota, they have like a storage of 2 bumpers. You fix your bumper, they fix it, and then they have this vacuum. They have a shortage of 1 bumper in their service. So they order this 1 bumper from a local storage. They get this bumper like in a week. You pay attention that you get this bumper also immediately. The same amount of time is being spent for your car in the service as the American car. But how that works for Toyota? So they have shortage of 1 bumper in local storage. They order it from the national. So now the national storage has shortage of 1 bumper. They order it directly from manufacturer. It creates this bumper, and it is being shipped to this storage. Yes, you could argue that that's a lot of cost for shipping, because you actually have to ship to all these places. But that turns out to be more effective, because the first thing is you can spot all the problems with bumpers immediately. And if there are some problems, you have to throw out only 6 bumpers or 8 bumpers, not thousands of bumpers. So that's not generating waste. And the second thing is that you don't have to have these huge storages. And how it works, you come to the service and you actually pull the bumper almost directly from the factory. So you get it's like you, one guy, take a bumper like almost directly from the factory, and that's really cool. That's the pull method, not the push. You are not pushing lots of bumpers to your customers. The customers are pulling bumpers from you. And if your bumpers are so cool that they don't break ever, then you only manufactured 6 bumpers too many, and that's it, and nobody in the world will use them. But if you turn out to develop a really cool bumper that nobody changes, but you are an American car manufacturer and you have your storage is full of bumpers that nobody will change, you'll have to throw them out in a few years maybe. And how it works in development. So in development, here I had to talk about Kanban. So Kanban is this storage Kanban cards. Whenever you take something out of the storage, you immediately replace it from the next level of storage, just like I told you about Toyota. So how this is in development? So in development, you have a Kanban board. Kanban is an agile, one of agile frameworks. Maybe you have heard Scrum, which is also pretty popular. So in Kanban, you have these columns for development. And here you see, for example, the limit for your Kanban board is 4 tasks in any of these columns. And when you start developing on something, you start from the backlog, where you put all your tasks that you want to actually develop and validate. Then you put them in progress. Then you validate them. That's actually doing the measurements. And then you put them in the complete, where they are actually merged back into your project. For example, if you have A/B test, then you have to throw out the old one if your test is successful and merge it in the game. And you are not allowed, for example, in this example, you are not allowed to have more than 5 tasks in any of these. So how that works? Usually the first columns, they fill out the first ones. So work in progress fills, and you are not allowed to work on any other task until you have validated at least one of work in progress tasks. So then you move them in validation column, and then that fills up. So when it's filled up, you realize, okay, I have to complete at least one of those tasks and then merge it back into your product. And then the completion column fills up, and then everything's filled up. And what that means, you cannot start working on anything until you have completed at least one task. So this is the pull method. So you complete one task, you merge it into your project, you have this vacuum in the last column. So now you can take a task from the validation column, pull it in your complete column. That means that now validation column has a vacuum. It has shortage of one task. Now you can pull one task from work in progress column and do it in the validation column. Now it's a vacuum the same in work in progress. Now you take the task from backlog. So this is this pull method. How usually companies work in Latvia, and I have worked in lots of companies in Latvia, like more than 10 companies. How they usually work. They have a backlog and they're like pushing the tasks onto all the other columns. And that's a bad approach because you are working on lots of tasks that nobody needs because you don't have any validation of those tasks. You just, this feature could be cool if we could integrate this in our product. It turns out the same 20-80 principle, 80% of those tasks are a waste. So the main idea of lean movement, and they have a whole movement there, is to generate less waste than we are generating right now. That's the whole idea. If you generate less waste, you are more productive. You can do more MEPs per your runway than others. And that's the main goal, doing the most MEPs as you can. So 5 whys. This is another point in this methodologies. You must always ask. Yeah, Janis, do you have a question? Okay, maybe. Okay, so 5 whys. This is also invented a thing by Toyota. Whenever something breaks, or the bumper does not stick on something, or you made a faulty part, or you made something that nobody needs, you always have to ask 5 whys. This is important to actually know where the real problem is and not fixing the actual result. For example, there was one example from a company that like there was some task that was taking too long time, and when you ask why does it take too long, because some guy did not finish it in time. Why did this guy did not finish it in time? Because his keyboard maybe was broken. Why was he not asking anybody to purchase a new keyboard? Because he does not know where to ask for these things. Why does he not know? Because, and the last 5th question, because there is no policy in the company how to ask for new things in this company. So from task not finished in time, you actually get to the point that you don't have policy how to purchase new stuff for your workers, for your employees. And that's how, if you just lay off the guy because he did not finish the task in time, you will not fix the root cause of this problem that you have. And there are lots of these situations that you probably can remember from your experience in working in different companies, that there are some things that go off totally badly, and you immediately jump on and start to fixing that problem without asking 5 whys, why this actually happened, the root cause of this. And this is also returning to this pull methodology. You should pull something out of the process, like pull this policy on how to order new stuff from the destination, and not implement some policy in your company that nobody will use. So yeah, always follow this pull, not push. There are companies that do this actively in their development. So Supercell is one example. Here is a picture from one of their presentations. So they have this build, test, refine, and test again, and then kill. So they have this methodology that's a bit lean, but with some additional steps that I would say it's still lean. Just the killing part, they set it as a separate step. So they have small teams, and that's why it's called Supercell, because all the teams are called cells in their company, and all the teams are working on different MVPs, and they can have like multiple MVPs maybe the same day, and you can have multiple tests. So if you paid attention, I'm always talking about measuring. So they're doing these MVPs and then launching them, measuring. If they're successful, they integrate it they refine it and integrate it into their core project. If not, they kill it. And that means what I'm telling you is that you have to make your decisions data-driven. If you don't measure what people are doing in your game, you are a bad person, and you are wasting lots of time and lots of resources that you could not do. So the thing is, work smart, don't work hard. Working hard is easy. I can tell you that. I work a lot, and I haven't done as much things as some of the guys that do it in the right way and in the smart way. And another advice on measuring: create some really simple analytics that maybe create some web page that your game just submits. So this guy clicked this button, this guy spent 5 minutes in your game, this guy purchased, and show those 5 metrics in some easy to access place and watch them. Like, be obsessed with those numbers, with those 5 numbers. There are some actually metrics that Steam Store provides to you. So you can also have some data from there, but you should also measure it. Achievements maybe is a good point how to measure, but yeah, so it's a bit tricky to measure something with the Steam achievements, because you have to measure the change. You have to measure the change all the time, not the absolute metrics. That's one of the mistakes that people do, is in lean methodology, that's called vanity metrics. Vanity metrics means that there are some numbers that are growing in your company, and they will usually grow exponentially. And you think that that's really good, and you think that you are working in the right direction. But if you don't know where those numbers come from and why they come from, at some point you will experience a big drop, and you will not be able to stop it. So the correct way is to measure the real-time data. So how many people came into your game and how many of them stayed. That's natural for people to grow exponentially at start of your project. That's totally natural. What you have to measure is what is the percentage of the new players that fill your metrics. Like what is the percentage of people staying in your game, not refunding and stuff like that, because these are the most important metrics, not the absolute metrics, because absolute metrics will fool you. They will grow at start, and then they will fall down, and you will not be able to stop that. So yeah, you can Google about lean methodology and other game dev studios. There will be other stories. So yeah, read. I know, like reading, who does that? But seriously, please read at least these 3 books. The Lean Startup is the fundamental book that everybody should read. So um, do you hear me?
Yeah, I do hear you. Everything's fine. Do you hear us?
Okay, I cannot hear you.
We can hear you fine.
Yeah. Okay. So read, the first is The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. This book is like the fundamental book of the whole lean movement. The next book is Running Lean by Ash Maurya. This is like the follow-up and more practical book on how to actually approach the lean methodology. They have like a practical framework on how to plan new stuff, how to plan all these data and stuff like that. And the last book is Traction, which is applying the lean methodology to actually getting traction to your project or your game. So it is made by the guy who invented the DuckDuckGo, written by this guy, and he tells about 19 channels where to get new customers to your projects and games, and there are most of them are actually applicable to games like exhibitions, press, like news, viral marketing and advertising and stuff like that. So 19 of these, and it tells you how to measure, how to approach this, and how to choose a channel that works best for your game or your project, and how to kill those channels that don't work. For example, if advertising does not work for your game and it works for others, probably it doesn't work for you because it works for others. And that's how this book suggests approaching this is choose channels that work for you. And those channels can actually be the most underappreciated channels. Like people are not going in some channels because they think that it doesn't work, but they haven't actually measured that. So maybe that's a channel where you should go, and maybe it will work for you. So yeah, I hope you learned something today, and I hope you will take something from that and apply it to your BRSD game. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. I actually had a question. A lot of things that you mentioned are in like agile. I kind of want to know like what are the differences between the agile and lean methodologies.
So yeah, let me have some headphones because I think you can hear yourself.
Actually, I couldn't hear myself.
So I will stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, headphones. So do you hear me now? Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So agile is a framework on how to develop these things. Agile can be used for lean methodology. You can probably use other methodologies, but from the top of my mind, I actually cannot think of any other good methodologies that allows you to pivoting so fast. Because as I said, your runway is measured in pivots, and the more pivots you make, the better. Okay, probably that's loud because I have dried out from talking a lot, so I have to drink something. So yeah, agile is the most like the perfect one for lean, because it allows you pivoting fast, and that's the main reason why you should use it. And as I said, Kanban is like almost perfect, but probably there will be other guys who have found out that maybe some other agile methodology, maybe you can modify Scrum in some ways to achieve bigger performance than Kanban. Any other questions? Because there should be a lot of questions, because I think this methodology changes your mind and messes up with your brain, because that's not how games are made. We don't think that games are made this way, but if we look at Supercell and how successful they are, this is how games should be made.
I had a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, read the book, love it. It's amazing book. So I was curious. So now that you've got this knowledge, you've been enlightened with the 2020 hindsight. When you were doing the large base layer project, how would you do it now? Tell me now. How would you go about it?
Yeah. So the first thing what I would do is I would go to, again, what we did already in Steam Early Access. We'll launch a Steam Early Access game with one level without art. And the physics, actually, the core gameplay. Maris Bunkovskis was here. Where is he?
Yeah, he's here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we made actually this game in one hackathon in 48 hours. This was the core game that we should have went to early access. And the thing is about Lean is that launching something is actually not what we think launching is. For example, Airbnb, they had a launch event and launch press release almost every week. If I remember correctly, they launched this project 10 times or something like that. And we could launch this game that we made in 48 hours on early access with a totally different name, and look if this actually generates any metrics. Probably it wouldn't, so we would probably throw it out and do something else. So our hypothesis was that one-button games will work on Steam. I don't know, maybe it would work, it maybe not, probably not. Then we would go with something different. And we found out in a hard and painful way in 3 years of development that platformers, puzzly platformers on Steam is the hardest cookie to sell. It's really, really hard. And we would probably go with a different idea and measure until we get. Another hypothesis was that some mythology of some small country would work. So this could be actually tested with a different MVP. We could make maybe a fake video of a platformer without any story, and the same platformer, the same video with just overlays that this is some ancient guy from Latvian mythology. And look how those two videos perform. If actually this video with ancient mythology works, it generates more views or something. And then pay for advertising both of those videos. You know, when you go to YouTube, you have this advertisement, and see how many people click and go to our Steam page and maybe even buy our game from first video and the second video, and measure if actually this large place, Bear Slayer, if he actually does anything to this project. If not, then throw it out. It's not needed.
Yeah, when you were talking about throwing out MVPs, I remember that we had a talk from Craig a few meetups back. He didn't mention, I think, Lean. He was mentioning things about GIFs, and he actually said you just make something, just share the GIF of the first thing you make, and then like in 2 weeks just watch how it does, and that's how he decided if he will continue to work on game or not. And I think that like some indie guys might not know it, but might actually be working like in lean principles.
Yeah, so lots of successful guys have actually come to this. That's nothing new, and lots of guys actually see what works and what doesn't, and they see that measuring works and not measuring does not work. So you can come to this, but with lean startup, it's you save a lot of time on learning that. You just read the book and you see how this should be approached. And another thing is that, for example, this pull and push method and these 5 whys, it's pretty hard to come up with this yourself. There is big company, Toyota, that figured that out, and you should probably trust them and not try to figure out your own methodology.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's very like approachable in game jams, because you are forced to make something small. So I really like it, and I will maybe research it more, definitely. Because a lot of things, like I said, there are like things that we do in like our company, for example, very similar. So I kind of know like where it kind of comes from, some of the things. But of course nobody does it perfectly. So that's also a thing. Like from my experience, it's usually like a part of something. Like we do this, like some things that we do it like you said. But then are some things that, like you said, with the backlog, it just fills up, and then you are overwhelmed with like so many tasks, and just it's.
And you actually, the problem with having multiple tasks and not measuring is that you throw all those tasks, you finish them, you integrate them in your product, and then some metrics start to grow. And you have absolutely no idea why these metrics are growing. Probably 80% of the tasks you have done are not involved in growth of your metrics, and only 20%. And lean methodology teaches you how to find those 20%. And not generate 80% of waste that could actually be thrown out of your project. So yeah, I see in the chat that the lecture was boring. Yeah, well, I'm sorry for that. The teaching methodologies is not always interesting. I maybe could make this presentation more interesting. I will do that in the future. But yeah, unfortunately, this is a boring task that could earn you lots and lots of money. So if you are interested in people actually playing your games and actually making money from them, then you should listen to what I said. If you are making games for fun, then do it as you did before. And there is nothing bad with that. But I think most of the guys here actually hope to someday earn money from games. If you are not from them, then this lecture is not for you, of course.
One more question. So, kind of this lean startup, it's been aimed at businesses which provide some kind of service or product. Effectively, you're solving some kind of problem for client, right? You're delivering kind of value proposition, and lean method is getting as short as possible feedback loop to check how successful you are at solving that problem and if it's viable. But in case of games are kind of esoteric. I mean, you're delivering some kind of fun, right? You're not solving exact problem. So how would you check if your game is good or not?
Look. The problem is a vague word. So I know that at start, when I started approaching this startup thing and stuff, I also was looking at it like there is a problem. A guy cannot walk, and you are fixing for him that by creating a robot feet or something like that. Now I'm looking at this from the game development standpoint, is that you have a game that is generating maybe some revenue, because on Steam generating some revenue is not too hard. And you see that, and you have a hypothesis that there is a problem in the game, that people don't want to play your game because it's too hard. So that's a problem for your players. If you fix that problem and make your game easier, that's a problem you fix. And then see if the metrics actually grow. If they grow, that means that you fixed a problem for your customers, and that works. If actually metrics don't grow, throw out your all easing the game and try approaching different problem. So you could see the problem as people having problem in your game, the problem that actually you yourself created. So that's how I am looking at that. Of course, as I said, like a lean methodology and lean startup is not the same thing. Like in lean startup, you solve actual problems in people's lives. I think in games, it's the game itself is not a solution for a problem. The things in your game is something that is problematic, and you should solve that. Of course, if you find out a big problem that could be solved with the game, that's even better. For example, people cannot read in some countries, maybe third world countries. You create an awesome game that everybody wants to play, and they learn how to read. That's super awesome, but I think that's really rare in game development world.
And one final question for me on this. So, I mean, big thing for lean is killing your babies, right?
Yeah.
You make them and then you kill them, which is super hard. I mean, usually in game development, I think in Latvian game development as well, everyone's just making the darling for a couple of years, not showing to nobody, and never touching it. How, like, it's super easy not to want to kill something because you have this investment bias. So how to train, or how to find that willingness to get rid of something that you've been working on?
So the first thing, it's not true that people are not killing stuff in here, because as Toti, they are approaching this in lean way. They are running tests like every week, as I have heard, and killing the stuff that does not work. So they are killing all the time. And about how to approach this and how to make it easier is make small MVPs. Killing an MVP is so much easier than killing a game that you made for 2 or 3 years. Like totally, if you approach it from the lean, and somebody would argue, no, that's not how games are made. Like Rockstar is not making games in that way. They make huge games in like a few years and then release it. You don't know that actually. I have read that actually big companies run small tests with under totally different names. Like they maybe have a totally different company that creates some small games, maybe in the web or somewhere, and they measure what people like about them. But you have to have this hypothesis, like maybe some small shooter game or something like that, and see how people actually like shooting, how they like the controls of shooting, and then the knowledge from that. This is this data-driven development. You have some data, and then you integrate this in your Grand Theft Auto or somewhere. So you actually don't know how many MVPs they had before they actually launched the GTA.
Yeah, I wanted to mention about MVPs. I think one good way is to like participate in jams in a way that, for example, there's a jam called Try Jam. It runs 3 hours every weekend, right? And 3 hours that you can just waste watching TV. Why not waste it making a game? And that way it's visible for, I mean, a little under 100 people, I think. That's one specific jam, but in jams in general. And then you can get some feedback from your 3-hour games, and you can just think about it. Okay, is this good or bad? Is it worth like giving 3 more hours, I guess? I'm just thinking here. I don't know if it's lean methodology or not, but I think it could be one of the approaches. Just to get people to play your small MVP game would be game jams.
Yeah, so with the feedback, it's a bit subjective. If you gather like 10 feedbacks and they're all positive, that could lead you to some wrong data, and you actually think that you should continue that. But the problem is that that feedback is from the guys who are also making games, and they're like cheering you up and stuff like that. What I suggest is create this small game, maybe in this Strazdiņš or somewhere, whatever motivates you to create the first MVP. Then go and, I don't know, buy some YouTube ads or Twitter ads or Facebook ads, and measure actually how many, like what's the conversion rate, what are your metrics for the game. And if they are really bad, then just throw it out, and you just wasted like, I don't know, 100 euros instead of wasting years of development of a thing that nobody wants.
So basically that would be trading in money for your time, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And if somebody tells that 100 euros is a lot for an MVP, let's talk after 2 years of developing stuff that nobody wants, and how you will then look at those 100 euros.
Yeah, very understandable. Maris in like Zoom chat had some input about indies, like you mentioned Rockstar and stuff, but how this would be like treated by an indie developer, like I guess 1 to 2 people.
Yeah, so for indies, it's really seen in Twitter and everywhere. Like people are just messing around with some cool art or something like that, and they see what is the reaction to one art versus another, how people like it, how they don't like it, and you create those MEPs, like lots of different MEPs, for example, for art, for a gameplay mechanic, for something. You have all these MEPs. You see what works and what doesn't, then you stick all of it together and create one small MEP for a game. Then you have your initial metrics, and now from that point, from initial metrics, you can actually watch what to improve on and what not. So actually indies kind of do that with sharing screenshot Saturdays and stuff like that, and seeing what sticks and what doesn't.
Yeah, when you talked about sharing art, I remember Vladimir's talk that he like shared art on Twitter and stick to the Merchant of the Skies because a lot of people liked it. That's kind of a lean thing, I guess. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I actually don't see any other questions in the text chats. I don't know if anyone wants to chime in, ask something, or give input. Maybe someone has used lean in their jobs.
So Mars is saying that the problem is usual visibility. So how lean manufacturing works, and the visibility is not a problem. The visibility can be bought. So what I mean is, if you buy 3 ads and that generates you, you buy 100 ads and that generates you for $10, for example, and that generates you 2 purchases for $10 each. That means you earn $20 from a $10 investment. That means you invest $1,000 and that brings you back $2,000, or you buy ads for $10,000 and that brings you back $20,000. That's a simple formula as that. Visibility is not a problem ever. The problem is how much money you invest and how much money you get back from that. Why do you say that it's not that simple like that? It's pretty that simple. If you buy ads for $1,000 and that brings you back $500, that means that you are not running your MEPs the right way, and you should cancel and do something differently. Yes, Mars.
Okay, I'll comment on what I meant. The thing is, it does work, and it does work in some specific segments in games too, like especially in mobile. Like it's visible that you can buy ads and buy users, and when you generate this like massive scale, it works. But on PC in premium games, it works a little bit differently. Like up until you reach a critical point, there is the issue of even if you have that visibility and like attempt to buy it, people will not view it and like not buy in your game. And what was the point I was going to make? It works a bit different with games. Like it's not just a retail product, it's like kind of entertainment product, and entertainment products are purchased and consumed in a slightly different way. But I do agree that it works for some products.
Well, I would argue that works for every product. So if you have a perfect product that you have measured every aspect of that product and it works, like a perfect game, then actually buying press coverage or streamer coverage for your game will increase even more your stats. If you have done things wrongly and just making guesses that some people will like it and then spending money on press coverage and streamers, it will not work for you. So that was what I mean. If your metrics were correct and you actually measured everything and it works for 100 people, and getting 100 people to your Steam page is super easy. I think doing Facebook ads or YouTube ads or paying 100 euros to some local streamer or something like that for him to stream for an hour your game. I actually did it for BRSD and it was super easy to get. But the problem is that we didn't measure anything from those people that came from these streams. If you measure and see that it actually works, then buying a video from PewDiePie or anyone who accepts your, I don't know, $1 million should bring you back $2 or $3 or $10 million if you measured everything correctly.
Okay, I guess that leads us to another problem. Indies don't have those tens of thousands of dollars.
you find a publisher, you find investor. That's not a problem. Investors like measuring. Like if you show any investor or publisher that you measured this works, and the only problem you have is money, that's not a problem. I guarantee you that's totally not a problem. Why investors usually don't invest in projects? Because nothing has been measured, nothing has been tested. All are just guesstimates and everything is just, I think it will work. That way you will never get money. If you have real data that this amount, I spent $100 on a streamer on YouTube and it brought me back $200, give me $1,000 and I will bring back 2,000. Like there's no way to refuse to that offer because that's real money. Okay, maybe 2 times return of investment maybe is not the best thing to show, but if you show like 10 times return, there's no reason to not invest in that.
Is there any false percentage, like you making a horror game, for example, and suddenly your measuring goes into phase where Halloweens are coming, and that spoils all the stats for you?
Yeah, so the Lean Startup book also talks about that, and you should this generates noise in your data, and you should reduce the noise as much as you can. And false positives do happen. That's why you should measure over a long time all these MEPs. You have to measure all the time your core project, and if numbers start to drop, then you have to check out why they drop. And maybe there were some events that were not connected to you. Maybe you launch your game on Halloween and after that it starts dropping. That's why you don't launch your game in a week. You launch your game after like 10 or I don't know how many MEPs. Okay, you launch every MEP, and you can even create a press release that you launched a new game every week. I guarantee you nobody will remember that you actually launched 3 weeks ago 3 times. So launch is whenever, but what I mean is that launching it to your investors or your publishers or something like that, you don't go and ask money after 1 week of measuring your game. You do it after maybe months or a few months probably would be the best, will be the most precise date. Yeah, Maris?
Or you do it a few years before launch.
Well, as I said, launch is a term that a full launch or an MEP launch. I'm talking about MEP launches that you do as regularly as possible. And then you go to pitch it to your investor in a few months. And then you do a full launch, maybe in a year, 2, 3, maybe never, like Nils. Like I like that approach of never launching a full game. Why not? Nobody says what a full launch actually means.
Well, it's not intentional to not plan, of course, to finally not end it, but release it and patch it and move on. Technology.
In your place, I would create a really small game in a week, then test it in early access, and then launch it, and then measure if launching a game on Steam actually changes metrics. If not, then never launch your game on full. If it actually changes something, then launch. But that should be measured. I wouldn't just go and press the launch button on Steam just because everybody does that. You don't know if that will actually change.
No. I mean, in our case, it's strategy of promised features and what we planned initially. So it's not just, oh, okay, tomorrow we just press release and done.
Yeah, but why do you want to release it?
It's because of technological limits, because when you work on things like 5 years, since the first prototype in my case, then I know in the next Unity multiplayer the support will be dropped. I have to basically rewrite everything that's multiplayer related to update in new version. So that's not feasible just to tear up all game to put a new engine in the old car. So it's basically a time to wrap it up and think about the second part or whatever.
Okay. Okay, I see. Makes sense. Yeah. So you want to create a new game, and you have a hypothesis that people will not buy your new game because you have an old game in early access, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, maybe it's true, but maybe it can somehow be measured. I don't know how.
I have seen multiple times when devs work on smaller projects and release them to EA and release the next game before they exit EA with the previous one, and it generates a lot of bad opinions from players. And let's not say that the next game was not successful, but there were big issues with review bombings and stuff like that. If devs do that.
Yeah, same for paid DLCs for early access games. So those concepts, gamers are just raging.
Yeah, if somebody has already measured that for you and show a bad example, then probably you can skip measuring that and just doing what others have done.
I mean, one is data. A second one is you are a human being with feelings, let's say that. So if you're working on this next project, you are awesome. Yeah. Let's go. And then suddenly you just got months of negative review bombings.
Yeah.
You'll just think about, well, what I'm doing. Then you can just, it depends on each individual. Some ignore it, some, goes to jump off a cliff. So it impacts anyway the second project.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, what would be the data points you measure? I know in software you just ask a pop-up and a feedback form and 5 stars.
That's not a good idea.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the ways, but in games for example in Steam you don't ask for game ratings or reviews. I actually haven't seen that.
That doesn't give you a lot because as Airbnb shows, getting a 5-star rating for a room is just doing the bare minimum, giving him the keys in time and having a partly clean room for him to stay in. And that guarantees you 5 stars. And the rest of that is really bad. So probably your game will get 5 stars always, except of some cases where it crashes or something like that. And probably you know that it crashes before the review. So I don't see any point except for if store policy is to show higher ratings on top and lower ratings on the bottom, then you should do that, but only for visibility, not for actually gathering any data from that, because that's so subjective that it doesn't give you anything. But so the data points, as I said, the percentage of people that did not refund your game, so that would probably be something like 90%. 10% or maybe less tend to refund, and working on stuff that reduces that refund rate. The next would probably be how many you could create some. Steam now allows to follow the origin of the install of your game, so you could also measure how some maybe ads work and some don't. So you can measure, for example, from if you show some aspect of your game in your ad and that converts to purchasing and some other aspect doesn't convert, then you throw out that ad and only show ads that show this aspect of your game. Like, for example, if shooting in your game generates a lot more purchases than showing or maybe some streamers, maybe you see that some streamers play your game in one way and some streamers in another way, and then you measure how one streamer generates you money and how another streamer generates, and then go with the one that is best for you. So another thing would be measuring how much time people spend in your game, and as I said, don't measure that over a long time. Measure it in those small chunks of MEPs. And why this is important, I think, is because the longer it spends in your game, the more likely he is to tell about your game to his friends. So measure the time spent in your game and launch a new MEP and see if this time in your game actually goes up or down. If it goes down, throw out immediately. If it does not change, throw out immediately. If it goes up, stick with it, polish it, integrate it in your game, and go on with the next MEP. What other metrics? These are for PC games. For mobile games, there are lots of metrics like in-game purchases, in-game watched ads, spent time in-game, clicks on ads, stuff like that. There are lots of these metrics.
Yeah, so to me it sounds like it's like a scientific method a bit. Like,
yes,
you have
exactly.
data, hypothesis, then you do the stuff, and then you see if the hypothesis is true or not. And again,
exactly.
and again, like a cycle.
I think the hardest part about this is that we are creating art, and then comes some science, and you're like, no, burn, science is not for me. And if this is your attitude to actually measuring what you are doing, then that's a hobby. And you should realize that you are doing a hobby, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can paint paintings as a hobby, do music as a hobby, no problem. But if you actually want to be your main job for the rest of your life, and you want to work only for yourself, for your games, then do science.
There was a comment from Ivars in the chat that like, I think he meant that like gamers don't really like alpha builds. So could that be like some of the data could be considered noise if you launch an alpha build, and all of the comments are complaining that it's an alpha?
that's even better if they don't like alpha builds, because if you have any metrics already in your product that nobody likes, and if you actually are gathering some data, and then when you go out of this alpha and go to beta and they like it even more, then you are like, it's worse if people actually like alpha games, alpha builds, and then you go to more mature game and people stop liking it, then you should go back to alpha maybe, or I don't know how to approach that. But if they actually don't like initial versions of games, and you start to show metrics even at that stage that usually nobody likes, that's really awesome. And then when you move more mature and people like you even more and more, like your game more and more, that's even better.
Yeah, I don't see any more questions. Maybe someone wants to chime in again, or maybe we can end it. We have been streaming for...
Yeah, maybe some last words from others. What do you think about the topic?
I mean, I like it. I will try to read the stuff. Yeah, definitely.
I hope at least some of if at least some of the guys here try it, that would be a huge success for this presentation.
Yeah, I definitely think this is a valuable methodology, but I think quite a few companies already do at least something similar to it.
Yeah.
And this is already a broadly adopted approach, but yeah, but definitely could be used even more.
Yeah. And yeah, I said about your personal life. So if you want to approach and generate less waste, you could actually implement this in your personal life. For example, what your fridge can be an example of a pull method. So you have like 2 pieces of every stuff in your fridge, or in your maybe in your shelves or somewhere, and whenever you take one of them and put them in your fridge, or one of them is done and you take the last one, you add it immediately to your shopping list, and you take this pull methodology. So there is a vacuum in your shelf. You have one less piece of your food than before. And you go to shop, you have all this list, and you buy it. How this differs from usual approach? Usual approach is you go to the store, you see there is some discount for some products, and you buy a lot of them. And what happens in the end? It is enough for at least a few of those products to end the date, so that you have to throw it out to cancel all the gains you got from these discounts. Also, from my experience in the spring, we got some flies, some little those flies. I don't know how
the fruit flies, yeah.
Yeah, fruit flies, and they occupied some of our food, and we had to throw it out. And immediately, all the gains that we got from discounts from buying more than we needed canceled. So don't push stuff onto your fridge. Don't push stuff onto your daily habits that you have. Make them pull. Make something. Pull the stuff out of the grocery store or somewhere. Make the fridge be the puller. Like whenever you are running out of something, only then buy it. And you will actually spend less money and generate less waste that way than going the opposite direction.
Okay, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Elviss. That was like really cool presentation. And maybe we can get like the slides somewhere, or at least the book names like in text format.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will post the presentation.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will pin you. You can do the outro and stuff.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for coming and watching the Gamedev Meetup 95, and see you everybody next month in Gamedev Meetup 96, where we will see the winners of the BRSD 10. So see you guys and bye.